Hey there, S.T.E.A.M team! My name is Kristen and I'm a programming assistant at the Penticton Public Library. If you are new here, S.T.E.A.M Team Tuesdays is all about exploring the world around us with awesome activities and exciting experiments, all from the comfort of our own homes. So we use many common household items that could be found in your pantry, fridge, or cupboard. If that sounds great to you, then let's get on to what we are doing today, which is making some do-it-yourself rainbow scratch art. And while we work on this, we'll also be learning about light reflection and how rainbows form, which is kind of perfect in time for springtime. Now, have you ever heard of scratch art before? You can buy it from the store and it's basically just black sheets of paper, but you use special tools to scrape or scratch off that black coloring, which then results in revealing different colors underneath. So what we get to do today is create a super colorful rainbow pattern. Then we're going to paint over it with black and draw or scratch a picture then to reveal those rainbow colors below. So this is the first one that I tried. With the rainbow theme, I decided to do a rainbow with some cute little clouds on the side. We got the sun, some raindrops. I added some more details around the side. For now, you can start thinking about what you might like to do for your design. But first of all, we're going to talk about how do rainbows emerge in the sky? How do we see rainbows? You may have noticed that a rainbow tends to show up after it has rained as the sun starts to peek through the clouds. In fact, there must be three things present for a rainbow to emerge. One, super bright light, so of course sunlight falls into that category. Two, water droplets of some kind, such as raindrops that are suspended in the sky. And three, the correct angle. So the way that we see a rainbow has to do with the way that we are looking up at the sky, that light and the colors are coming down into our eyes so that we can see it. And actually, to see a rainbow, you need to be facing it, so facing the right direction with the sun shining from behind you. To understand exactly the science of how this works, we have to first know about two things, and that is reflection and refraction, which are similar but a little bit different. So let's explain. Both reflection and refraction result in a change in direction in the light waves. But with reflection, the light waves are bouncing off some kind of barrier. Mirror is a simple example. And refraction, it's also resulting in a change in direction in the light waves, but that is because it is traveling from one medium, one type of material, into another. So that could be, for example, it's traveling from the air into a droplet of water. And the density of the droplet of water is going to be different than that of the air, causing the light ray to refract. Or you could also think of it as bending. When it enters into the water droplet, for example, it's going to slow down. And then if the light wave comes out of the water droplet again, it's going to speed up because the air is less dense, so it has more room to move around. The angle and the speed of the light wave changes when it refracts. With reflection, the angle is just staying the same, it's just bouncing off of another surface. I made up a little diagram here so that you can see this better. See that for a rainbow to form, light is refracted twice when it enters the water droplet and then when it leaves, and it is reflected once. So the light from the sun enters or goes into the water droplet from above. The light refracts, it's changing its angle slightly and slowing down as it moves from the air into the denser water. And then it reflects or bounces off of the back inside of the water droplet. And the light once again exits out of the water droplet into the air, going down now, as you can see, towards the Earth's surface. It refracts again, speeding up and dispersing itself into a spectrum of colors that we can see from the ground. So you might be wondering, how exactly do all of those different colors separate? And how do we see each of the different colors of the rainbow as separate from each other. And this has to do with different wavelengths of the light, and we will be talking about this more as we're working on coloring our rainbow patterns. After the activity itself, as always, we're going to have a remix suggestion and then also be answering some more questions about rainbows. But for now, let's get on to what we will need for this activity. To make some DIY rainbow scratch art, you will need a thick paper plate. For this, you're going to want a paper plate that is not coated, as the paint and the crayon is not going to be able to stick to it properly. I just found these plates at the dollar store and they are the Royal Chinette brand. You could also use some heavy cardstock. Next, you will need some crayons in multiple colors, but especially if you'd like to keep it with the rainbow colors, then you will need all the colors of the rainbow. If you have it available to you, you could also use oil pastels. For paint, you are either going to need black tempera paint, or if, like me, you only have acrylic paint on hand, then you can mix that acrylic paint with some dish soap to be able to get the right consistency. You'll also need a container or bowl for mixing up your paint, some kind of paintbrush. I'm going to be using a foam brush, but a large soft bristled paintbrush can also work. And then you will need some toothpicks, a chopstick, or any other kind of thin wooden sticks like these skewers here. What I'm going to do today is experiment with using some different ones, so feel free to do that as well. And of course, you're going to need your imagination for this one. Step 1. Take your thick paper plate, or cardstock if you'd like, and find the crayon colors that you would like to use today. If you're looking to get that rainbow effect, you'll want to set aside the traditional colors of the rainbow, which can be remembered with the acronym ROY-G-BIV, which stands for red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, or a deeper blue, and violet, or purple. The shape that you choose to do your rainbow colors in is also totally up to you. You could choose to do it in circles, stripes, or waves, for example, or maybe do a couple of different ones. And the pattern that you choose will determine the effect for the final picture. For my sample, what I did is make rings of color really simply, starting with red on the outside and then going into violet or purple in the middle. For my first plate, I'm going to start again with coloring red on the outside and then working my way in towards purple. But I'm going to do it not in such clean rings this time, just to give it a little more interest, I suppose. If you would like to, you can also color the outside ring of the paper plate where it has these flowers to cover that up, or just make it look a little nicer. So now, while we work on this, let's talk a bit more about rainbows and color wavelengths. When the colors separate from each other inside a raindrop or water droplet, it is called dispersion. The colors are dispersed based on their wavelengths, as each color that we are able to see has a slightly different wavelength of light. Red has the longest wavelength, making it refract or bend the least, and violet has the shortest wavelength, meaning it bends the most. For the second plate, what I've decided to do is to make a horizontal wave pattern, kind of in a way to symbolize the waves of light that we see in different colors. Another tip here is to make your crayon coloring as bright as possible, because that way the colors are really going to shine through when it comes time to make our scratch art pictures. So when you're finished coloring your rainbow patterns in the way that you would like, let's move on to the next step. Step 2. Let's prepare our paint. So if you have black tempera paint available to use, all you'll need to do is pour some into a container or bowl suitable for painting. If you only have acrylic paint on hand, like me, not to worry, you can add dish soap to the paint to make it the right consistency. Pour or squeeze the amount of the black acrylic paint that you think you will need into a container, and then add the same amount, or equal parts, of dish soap. Mix it together until well combined and until you have a thin, slightly bubbly liquid. And you can always mix up more if needed. Step 3. Now it's time to paint over our beautiful rainbow designs, but they will reveal themselves again soon enough. Take your foam paintbrush or your regular soft bristled paintbrush, dip it into the black paint and paint over your crayon coloring in long, light strokes. It's not necessary to put on multiple layers of the black paint, but you do want to make sure that your rainbow pattern below is thoroughly covered so that the crayon colors don't peek through. It will make the final picture have the most contrast and therefore look awesome. And with this paint, you can choose to go as far up on the plate as you would like. You could cover the entire plate or paper. Of course, only the part that you have the rainbow pattern on is the part that you're going to be scratching. But just for looks, you could choose to cover the entire plate if you would like to. So when you're done painting, leave your plate in a safe place where it can dry and cure for at least a few hours or overnight. Step 4. Once the paint is all dry, it's time to come back to your project. You can take any sort of thin wooden stick, as mentioned earlier, like a toothpick or a wooden chopstick, and use it to scratch away the black paint to reveal the rainbow colors below, just like this. A couple of tips here: try not to press too hard when you're drawing, just enough to remove the black paint. What happened to me in my sample is that there were a few areas where I was scratching a little too hard with the toothpick. So in some areas it was not only removing the paint, but also removing some of the crayon, showing the white beneath, or leaving a mark in the plate. So be a little bit gentle on it with whatever method that you're using. But as you can see here, I also tried using the chopstick and using the wooden skewer just to get a little bit of a different effect. The more detail that you put into your drawing, the more awesome it is going to look. Every now and then you can gently dust off your picture to rid of some of the pieces of paint. So try out some different things. Try doodling, try writing, as I did in my sample, draw some pictures, or trace out some finely detailed patterns. I, of course, would love to see what you came up with if you feel like sharing. And now, my friends, we are on to a remix suggestion. As mentioned near the beginning of this video, we need bright light, water droplets, and the correct angle to create a rainbow. So what about creating your own rainbow at home? So you can create your own little rainbow at home using a CD, so any kind of disc that is okay to be submerged in water. Make sure that it is first. Some type of clear container, such as a plastic or glass container that is filled with some water, and a flashlight. The flashlight provides the light source. You could also use the sun, but if the sun doesn't happen to be that bright on the day that you want to do this, then a flashlight works just as well. The clear container with the water in it is going to serve as our water droplets, and the CD helps to provide the reflection of light at an angle. So what you want to do is partially submerge your CD into the container with the water in it. Place a blank white piece of paper right next to the container, and then take your flashlight, start experimenting with it, tilting around the angle of the CD and the flashlight until you get rainbows reflecting and refracting onto your piece of paper. If you'd like, you can then paint the colors of the rainbows that you are seeing onto the piece of paper with some watercolors or watered down acrylic paints, and this will result in some really cool rainbow artwork. Thank you so much to thepinterestedparent.com for this idea. Finally, let's move on to some real-world connections and kind of connecting the dots on some of these last questions that we might have about rainbows. Okay, so did you know that a rainbow is actually a full circle? Yes, it is. So when we look up in the sky, we're typically just seeing a semicircle shape because the ground is there, so we're not able to see the rainbow past the ground. But when up in an airplane, for example, it's possible to see the full circular form of a rainbow, which is a complete circle with red around the outside moving inwards to violet. Now, what about double rainbows? They're pretty cool to see and actually not super rare. If you look really closely when you see a primary rainbow in the sky, many times there is a fainter rainbow formed next to that rainbow, so a secondary rainbow. So this happens when sunlight is reflected inside of a water droplet twice. The second reflection exits the water droplet at a different angle than the first one did, causing the second rainbow to appear just slightly above the first rainbow. Another interesting thing is that the order of colors are actually reversed on the second rainbow as well. So you would see when looking up in the sky that red is on the bottom of that second rainbow arc, moving upwards towards violet at the top. Next time that you spot a double rainbow in the sky, don't forget to take a close look, see if you can notice those colors going in the reverse order than they usually are. So today we learned about how rainbows form in the sky and how light reflects for us to be able to see the different colors of the rainbow with their different wavelengths. I hope you enjoyed getting artsy, imaginative, and also scientific with this DIY scratch art. And that's all for now, S.T.E.A.M team. I will see you again soon. Keep exploring, keep experimenting, keep crafting, and stay curious. Bye!